You have reached Red Steele's Toilet Review. I'm your man, Red Steele, and today I'll be reviewing from the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe Faker. Masters of the Universe, Masterverse Faker. But before I get to the actual review, I just want to go over some of the awesome details on this packaging. Up front here, Kibble Suit and show you both the Faker and all his accessories inside. In the top corner, you have 30 points of articulation. In the other corner, you have a 6+, which is an age requirement for this figure. Across top here, you have Masterverse, and down here in the middle, you have Vintage Collection. Below that, you have Masters of the Universe, and on the bottom here, it says Faker, Evil Robot of Skeletor. In the corner here, you have the Mattel emblem. In the back of the packaging here, on the very top, it says, Faker is no He-Man. He is the evil blue robotic warrior of Skeletor. And over here, Faker battling He-Man with Skeletor in the back here. In the middle here, have all the figures features such as Arm for Battle, Reveal Robotic Recorder, and Faker, Evil Robot of Skeletor. And down here it says, in 1982, Masters of the Universe took the world by storm with action figures that captured the imagination of people from here to Eternia. Today, the Masterverse celebrates the original designs as modern 7-inch scale action figures with the Vintage Collection. Then over here you have the Mattel emblem, and next to that it says, empowering generations through play. Masters of the Universe, Masterverse, Vintage Collection, Faker. Faker was released July 17, 2025 with the suggested retail price of $23.72, and he was available exclusively at Walmart. Faker has 30 points of articulation, and accessories include a power sword, a shield, an axe, and an extra set of hands. Faker stands 7 inches tall, and he is meant for fans ages 6 and up. And then Faker on my display table, so we're going to go over some of his play features and accessories. First by talking about his extra set of hands. And he comes with 2 extra hands, comes with a right closed fist and a left open hand right here. This open hand is open enough to brace a weapon. Because if you wanted the option of arming Faker with a weapon in each hand, you switch out this hand right here because the default hand here is open-handed. Well, this one right here was given the option to arm a weapon in both hands. Or to switch out the hands, you get the old hand here, you pull it away from the wrist, just like that. Because at the end of the hand here, you have a tapered peg. At the end of the wrist, you have a little porthole. You take that fist and push it right into the wrist here, a little pop, just like that. And now you have Faker with this new hand. And these hand sculpts are just fantastic. They're so finely detailed. You get right here, you have some back of the hand detail, you have some knuckle detail. You flip the hand over here, you have some fingernail detail, you have some palm detail. And you even have little creases in the fingers. Very, very nicely done. But I'm going to take these hands and put them off to the side. Because the next accessory I'm bringing in is his shield. And this shield's also so finely detailed because you have this little detail around the edges of the shield here where it looks like the little buttons. You get that front design here. You get that middle design here. It's very, very nicely done. Order arm Faker with this shield. You flip the shield over. You have this handle and you have this strap. What you want to do now is you want to take the arm, slide it right into that strap and that handle, just like that. And now you have Faker armed with his shield. Very, very cool. And the cool thing is if you shine to certain angles of light, you get that metallic luster. And it's also molded out of like a copper plastic where it has that metallic look to it. And I kid you not, I mean, it's made out of plastic, but it does look metal because it doesn't have that copper look to it. Very, very nicely done. The next accessory I want to bring in is his axe. And this axe is also molded out of that copper plastic where it has that metallic look to it. Very, very cool. You got some nice design elements too. You got this design on the blade right here. You get this ornament on top of the axe here. You got some buttons here. Even the handle detail is nicely done. And you also have some battle damage on his axe, believe it or not, but you got little nicks on the blade right here in the front and on the sides. Very, very finely detailed weapon. order to arm Faker with this axe, what I tend to do is try to pry the hands open a little bit because they always conform to the original shape over time. What I'm going to do is now is slide that handle right into the fist, and now you have Faker armed with his axe. Really cool accessory. I'm going to take that axe and put that off to the side. The next accessory I want to bring in is He-Man's trademark power sword. But this time they molded it out of like a copper plastic, just like they did the shield and the axe. And it's really finely detailed. I mean, it looks just like the power sword that you saw in the animated series, because that's more what this figure is based on. The Vintage Collection is more based on kind of a combination of both the animated series and the actual retro figure. You see some handle detail there, very, very nicely done. Order arm Faker with this sword, same thing, just put it right into the fist, just like that. And now you have Faker armed with this power sword. And you also have the option of storing this power sword on Faker, because when you turn him around, on this chest harness right here, you have a little brace right there. You take that power sword and just slide it right through that brace just like that. And now you have Faker with his power sword stored on his chest harness. Very, very nicely done. I'm going to go and take his accessories though. I'm not going to put these off this time. I want to talk about Faker alone, because this figure, he's a cool figure. But Faker to me is kind of an irrelevant figure, because in the cartoon series, Skeletor creates an android to kind of infiltrate He-Man, where this android is supposed to replace He-Man. But on the animated series, the Faker was actually an exact replica of He-Man. The only difference was his eyes, I believe. His eyes glowed. He kind of spoke in like a slight robotic form, but he still had He-Man's voice. Well, in order for Mattel to cash in on that, you know, if we wanted to get a Faker, we would have just bought a duplicate He-Man, right? But I think what Mattel thought, what their thought process was, they need to make a change to He-Man's mold. So what they did is they changed the color scheme and added a sticker to his chest and gave him Skeletor's chest harness. And that was the difference with the figure. But what this figure did was, it did take this figure, because it is actually a retooling and a redeco of the 40th anniversary He-Man figure, which I do have on hand to do a side-by-side comparison. And what a redeco is where they take the color scheme and they change it. Because as you can see, the original He-Man's color scheme, you got flesh color, you got blonde hair, and you got the brown here with the orange belt. Well, his color schemes changed where it's blue, you got the red, you got the orange, and you got the blue there. So that's where they made the color scheme. And a retooling is where they make any changes to the actual physical properties of the figure, where they took his chest right here and they remolded it. And I'm going to take his chest harness off to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about, because this feature is actually a trademark feature for the original Faker, and unfortunately I have to take his head off. In order to take off the head, you just pop it from the shoulder, because you get a ball socket port for the neck right here. At the bottom of the head you have a ball socket port, and if you want to go and change out the head, which these figures are very interchangeable, just pop it right back in just like that. And the original Faker here, that came out for both the Vintage series and the Origins, that came out a couple years ago, what they simply did with the actual He-Man was they just gave him more of a different color scheme, but they added a paint detail where it was this recorder type device on his chest, which is very outdated right now, because back in the 80s, you know, everything was on tape, so they had some like tape-to-tape reels right here. You have some buttons here to kind of give them that Android look, which is pretty cool. Because nowadays, it's all digital, so you're not going to have any reels or anything. It's all in zip drives and microchips and stuff, so this is kind of outdated technology, but it was kind of cool back in the 80s. I want to go and put his chest harness back on, so I got to pop off the head again. Put the chest harness on, and actually I'm going to go ahead and bring in my Origins Faker to kind of do a side-by-side comparison also. So I did want to use my 40th anniversary He-Man as more of a reference point, so you guys can see that it is actually the exact figure, just they made some changes. But the one thing I want to note too is, the one cool thing about this He-Man here was, I was not really into the Masterverse. I was just getting into it kind of for purposes of this channel, because I was not a big fan of the actual the body molds for the Revelation figures, but I felt they're very, very unbalanced, where the necks were jutting forward and the chest had like that weird angle where it kind of sloped down. When they did this He-Man, it kind of gave me hope that they're going in a different direction, because they remolded the chest where he looked like over muscular, and that was kind of a trademark for the original Masters of the Universe figures, where they had that, you know, that larger than life muscularity. And they actually brought that back with this version of He-Man when they puffed out his chest a little bit. And I don't have my my Revelation He-Man because he's my least favorite He-Man of any He-Man they've ever made. I even like the Space He-Man better than the Revelation He-Man. But they went ahead and they fixed the chest mold here. I mean, the legs are the same as the other Revelation figures, or I want the Revelation figures, and the loincloth and the boots. They just made changes to the chest to kind of make them bigger, because I can understand with certain figures like Man-at-Arms where they had the chest piece that went over the chest and it kind of conforms to the body and it works with that body mold. But when you have He-Man and characters with a bare chest, it just doesn't work. So I'm glad that they are doing a vintage collection now, because they went from Revelation, or the ones that are based on Netflix series, to New Eternia. And I really do like the New Eternia molds, but that's kind of more of a modern take on the Masters of the Universe figures. Now they're going towards the vintage collection, and that's where this Faker starts, because this Faker is actually based on the original toy, which I do have on hand, or not the original toy, but I have the Origins version of Faker. Do a side-by-side comparison. And like I mentioned earlier on, and I mean, this harness is kind of a pain to take off, but I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway. I'm going to take this harness off just for you guys, so I can show you guys what I was talking about with this recorder, because I never owned a Faker as a kid, so I did not even know about this. But this is actually a paint deco on his chest, which is crazy. And it's actually, they did a good job keeping that design element with this version of Faker, but they went ahead and molded that design onto his chest, which I kind of wish they did with the Origins version, but I can see why they didn't. Kind of restrain or refrain from kind of producing a new chest mold for just one figure, which would be senseless, and it's very understandable. I want to go and put this chest harness back on because I want to go ahead and talk about the comparison, because this figure I feel is more heavily based on the actual original toy, not so much the animated version of Faker, because like I said before, all the animated version of Faker was just a replica of He-Man himself, so that there would be no sense in creating a Faker figure if that's what they used as their design for the toy. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back on, because Faker is actually a pretty cool figure, and I understood why they went in the direction they did, because all they really did was they took Skeletor's chest harness here and remolded it out of an orange plastic, which they pretty much did with this figure too. And you do a side-by-side comparison, you can kind of see like even the hairstyle kind of carried over to the Masterverse version of Faker. I mean, the chest harness is almost the exact replica, where they kind of did some more paint details, because the original Masters of the Universe figure didn't really have too much paint detail, other than what was on like the belts and the wrist guards and stuff like that. I mean, you get the color scheme kind of matches between two figures. He's got that angry look. He's got that weird hairstyle. Very, very cool figure. But if I rotate around, you can see what it looks like from all angles. Even the chest harness is pretty close. But what I really dig with the Masterverse Faker is they gave him that little holster right here where you can kind of slide in this power sword. You didn't really have that option with this Faker right here, because what we did as kids, we just slid it in the back of that, and sometimes it popped open the harness. But other than that, this is a great figure. I'm going to go and put my Origins version off to the side. And I do love the fact that they didn't mold it out of like one like light blue plastic. They kind of did some cell shading here, where you can see some shading around muscles here. And I hope this is kind of going to kick-start the whole vintage collection, because I missed out on Masters of the Universe Classics. I heard that was a great collection, and it looks like these figures are pretty close to what you get from collections. I'm not very sure about that, so if you do know for sure, just leave me a comment in the comments below. But I do love the direction that the Masterverse is going, if they're going to go this way with the vintage collection. But if you guys found any of the information in this video valuable, please like and share this video. Also, if you really enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel, and while you're there, click the bell to be notified of any future videos. I want to thank you guys for watching Steele's Awesome Toy Collector Review. I'll check you guys out next time.